Now, boys, we have asked our lovely, lovely Patreon crew, who we wouldn't be able to do this show without, because we're going to give a couple of our cheeky little bottles away. We might have given away maybe a question a bit earlier in the show. But
I still feel sad that I had a few too many beers on the other episode and announced that we would give them away, because we actually have to give them away now.
Yeah. Do we get to keep any of their
No,
own?
we'll choose what we give them.
Very smart.
We'll-
Very smart indeed.
Wait. Oh, no, we drank all the milkshake cans. So
Oh, no.
we'll give them something good. We'll give them
something okay. So, look, we did ask them to give us the best of the Three Ravens story or question, with the winner sharing some of the most ridiculous beer mail that you boys have sent us. So, the winner, or the winning question, comes from our very good friend Nick Josie. Congratulations. Clint, do you want to read out the question for the boys to answer? Because it's an absolute river.
So Nick actually had about 4 questions. He was up and about. And
Carpet bomb philosophy.
well, I was
Smart move.
sort of a bit like, Nick, don't take my fucking job, mate. But we're going to go with the one that I enjoyed the most. Three Ravens were one of the first in Australia to truly embrace the NEIPA style with Juicy. What are your thoughts on the way NEIPAs have been brewed by a lot of Australian breweries now, given it's quite different to what I remember Juicy to be when it came out? And why has one drop completely fucking destroyed the style?
Sick burn.
That's very. I love the little cheeky one.
Very on brand.
Oh, I really like that a lot.
I like you a lot.
He
You are
understands.
fucking up, bud.
He understands. He understands.
Nick gets it. So, yeah, when, we alluded to this earlier and we kept trying to stop you guys talking about it, but, let's be honest, as Clint Weaver once said on that front cover of Froth, you guys enjoy flogging a dead horse.
Why don't you kick off, Bill? I'll jump in later.
What do I think of NEIPAs in Australia?
No, the current wave. The current
The
wave.
current wave.
Right now.
Well, because the essence of the question is that, you guys in 2016, like, I will wholly admit, I completely consider you guys were ahead of the curve. I just tasted them in the States and was like, how the fuck did we do this? How do we bring it across here? And then
You're still yet to brew one, mate.
Yeah, I know. And then every Australian
Hurry up.
brewery iteration I had just fell so far short. So it was ahead of the curve. He's right.
Look, I see NEIPA in Australia sort of moving in 2 directions. One of those directions is somewhat ridiculous, and it's about, sort of pushing the boundaries of what people will actually pay money for.
The sort of monkish, like West.
Oh, like
I wanna-
big.
I say
yeah,
I say West Coast as opposed to Vermont. Like,
so big, high ABV, ridiculous hopping rates. What I perceive to be like really bitter and almost like to the point of burning you when you drink them.
Sounds like you need to put them in your linen closets,
a
boys.
little bit of
and,
hop spice.
Sell those for 4 months.
A little bit of hop spice.
So we're sort
Spicy
of
hop.
seeing a lot of that. But then also sort of refreshingly, we're sort of moving away from that to, I guess, into more hazy pale and seeing things that are actually drinkable and approachable.
Yeah.
And delicious. Because I think that, NEIPA is an entirely different celebration of what a hop can be in a beer. And so it's nice to see people exploring that. I think there's a really annoying push towards making Instagrammable beers.
Preach.
Which not necessarily. Their beers, I think, are worth the hype. Absolutely, they're incredible. I've just had a couple recently now, and I'm very impressed by them. But
Who are those ones you've had?
from Range, I had no idea
Oh, you did, I didn't. Did you? I didn't say range, but did you?
No, I said that. Insert random name generator here.
Oh, jeez, there it is. There it is.
Yeah, and I think Instagrammable beer just, I don't know, kind of shits me a little bit. Even though I'm the kind of person that will take a glass of milk and two Chupa Chups out onto the front lawn and take a photo of a beer and post it on our Instagram.
Love it.
Yeah, but I sort of see these sort of two distinct strains emerging, and I kind of enjoy it. I also really like how angry NEIPA makes some people.
Yeah.
That's something that I never really saw my career in craft beer as achieving was upsetting people, but I've really embraced it.
It's really satisfying on a deep
So
level.
satisfying, yeah.
Oh.
And I don't really see any other beer styles in Australia being so widely available and so polarizing.
Old money, new money.
It's interesting.
Old money, new money has never been more adamant or active as it is right now.
Yeah, it's
The
Yeah,
chonky
it's
donkeys
it's taken
and the
off, isn't it?
Pilsner Panthers are going at it.
It's all
I
about
think-
the
yeah.
neckbeard.
What immediately attracted me to the rise of NEIPA in America was the focus on so many finite technical details and process. It wasn't just, I mean, I guess that the style was being criticised as just being milkshakes and unfinished beer. But as you delved into it, there was so much to do with, biotransformation. Wig, if you could push a button every time I say biotransformation.
He's just jumped behind the camera, so
Damn it.
he clearly can't even do that.
Can
I'll
you just
probably say it a lot. But
wait? Just hit the fucking
He
biotransformation.
said every time Brendan says biotransformation, we need some sort of sound effect.
Maybe like
but
the clown horn.
He's good. He's good.
if we
He's
think about
learning.
NEIPA,
He's learnt it.
Turn it down, Wick. Stop it. Jesus Christ! Control
Sorry,
the
Brendan.
board.
Continue.
the more I learned about NEIPA, the more it really appealed to my appreciation of West Coast IPA in general and what Russian River were pioneering, which was that IPA with lower bitterness that just celebrated hop flavour and aroma and character. And to me, NEIPA at its essence was about that. It wasn't about bitterness. It was about getting as much hop oil and hop character into the beer as you could, and supporting that with esters from fruity yeast and creating that complex of protein and polyphenol to primarily to support the hop oil, because there's only so much of hop oil that is soluble in a 6 or 8 or 9% beer. The rest of it's going to settle out during conditioning or during centrifuging or during filtration.
Which they all should start brewing. Shout out to the Aussie NEIPA brewers.
Well, yeah, there's that. But if you can, so much of the fraction of hop oil is insoluble. It's just too heavy or too insoluble that it's not going to end up in a clear beer. So that's what excited me, was that the whole idea of creating a haze matrix. The purpose was to make a hoppier beer. It wasn't just to make an Instagrammable beer. And I guess some people have gone down that route, but the whole idea of creating a stable haze matrix that wasn't yeast, that was protein and polyphenol and tannin and maybe pectin, was to make a hoppier beer. So for me, that was really exciting, and that's what got me across the line back in 2016, after I'd been hearing about it on Don't Drink Beer and other places
Shout
in
out to the
America
boys.
for years.
I think that's I think that's
There's no
literally
stopping
echoed every sentiment I have about the style. It's a style that, as much maligned as it can be in the community, especially by old money, which I consider myself part of, I do partake in a little bit of wee bit of the hazy from time to time.
The misunderstanding of it, or the hatred of it, it just comes down to a lack of understanding of what it's about, or poorly brewed examples. If people
Exactly right.
are leaving beer unfinished, or they're not conditioning it for long enough, or they've got yeast in their package and they're using yeast for haze, then it's going to be a bad experience. Or if they're not using the right strain of yeast that's not creating those biotransformation flavours.
Come on, swag. Come on.
Wow.
Where's the clown noise?
That was so good.
Unbelievable. You got to be quicker.
Bill's, Bill's fast.
They're trying to make beer that looks like a NEIPA, not one that tastes like a NEIPA.
I think that's where my disdain for some of the Australian practice comes from. And I remember, early in our podcast now, only 2 years ago, because we're very young, I was saying how much I dislike the fact that Australian brewers were basically looking at Instagram photos.
Yeah.
And,
you were.
and that's how they were determining how to brew this style. And it wasn't until I think maybe brewers like JC at Deeds came along, and even to an extent the earlier Mr. Banks stuff, not as such. The latest stuff, some of the latest stuff, I think for me has left a little bit to be desired, like head retention and things like that. But they're very small things. They're obviously still killing it for all the people buying it like crazy. But when Deeds put out Survivor Type, that was sort of the moment for me where I said, these
a big shift.
What Deeds have, which not a lot of Australian breweries have, is a centrifuge.
100%,
to manage
100%,
solids,
100%.
It's definitely a tricky thing when breweries want to turn beer out in a couple of weeks, but ideally depending on the level of haze and the level of hopping, you might need to condition these beers for longer than you would a lager. It's hard to justify when you're a small brewery or you're trying to turn beer over, so you encourage people to age it in packer and can rather than you aging it in tank.
Or linen closets,
yeah.
Yep. I think that was.
I think that's been what's, I guess, sullied the reputation of NEIPA, is poorly conditioned, or I don't know. I guess it's perception as well and preference, and some people really enjoy the
spice.
Insoluble resin, which, I guess for me what you're trying to dissolve is the oil.
Yes.
What you don't want is the resin. So the resin is the really harsh.
Jeez, I love resin though.
Those binding acids that just give you that raw, like I just had heartburn as I tried to finish your NEIPA taste.
Yeah, and if you're on a schedule, that's hard to manage. Like if you've got a contract canning manufacturer booked in to come past your place and it's not ready, like what do you do? Like it's,
Yeah, I mean, dare I say it, that's something I've found more recently with mountain culture beers, which I know are the darling of the industry right now. And, full credit, some of the mountain culture beers I've had have been incredible.
Shout out to Status Quo.
Status Quo. Stunning. Be Kind Rewind, the first batch of that I had was just like mind-bogglingly good. But then I've had other ones from them that were just like...
Yeah, very chloride.
Very chloride heavy.
Very chloride heavy.
But, that's part of us all growing, I guess.
One of the most interesting things that I've found watching this style evolve, and then sort of a lot of the broader things that have come out of this, like, milkshake IPA and things like that, is seeing how beer nerds in particular are real gatekeepers of what is beer.
Oh, yeah.
How many times have you seen
You shall not pass with your opinions.
Yeah, like, I just want beer that tastes like beer. How many times have you seen people say that? But
yeah.
I think what that reflects is they want something that tastes like what they remember their first craft beer tasting like. So first time they had a pale ale or an IPA, they think that that's what beer is.
Chasing that moment.
That's what craft beer is to them. And seeing a new style like NEIPA emerge and evolve and change so much, like what we make in Australia is so different to what the alchemists are doing. And I think it's really interesting to watch people's attitude towards beer and see how strong their gatekeeping attitude is towards beer. I think it's kind of fascinating for me.
The constraints of excise and hop pricing in Australia has definitely influenced our approach to hazy IPA. We're definitely not brewing American or traditional NEIPAs, and it's hard to make something thick that's only 6%. But I think it's not our focus. Our focus is on making something that embraces those aspects of what NEIPA's about, but in an Australian context.
Yeah,
and I feel like Deeds are making like a really good knock at the American style, whereas our approach is to make something a bit more balanced and Australian and affordable.
Yep.
Sessionable. Great question, Nick.
It was a great question, Nick.
We are while that was the best question, I did have...
Yeah, do we just get Nick to write all our questions from now on? That'd be great.
Well, I actually sent that message to Bill today when I was doing Brendan's intro, and I asked him for a little tidbit, and he wrote me a couple of tidbits, and I was like, do you want to just do my fucking job for me, mate? Because he was doing it better.
He was.
But the second story was really beautiful because it was one that I definitely can... What's the word? I'm trying to figure the word. When you can...
Identify.
Yeah, when you can relate... Oh, sorry, relate to. Wow, that wasn't hard to say, was
Jeez,
it?
mate, how many Soleras have you had?
I'm just
You've been
finishing...
drinking for 3 hours.
I'm just finishing off Weg Solera because he's
Not ready. He's not
new.
ready.
It's fine. It's new.
He's not ready.
Hey, Weg, we respect you for joining the culture. We're not going to bag you out for that. Anyway, Rob Stew, who is
You
an
are 1 month old.
amazing friend of the show, OG Patreon, one of the first two to join, has always been a friend of the show before friend of the show even existed. Anyway, he said, my Three Ravens story is pretty simple. They hold the title for being the only craft brewery to make a beer that my wife actually liked.
Oh.
Like
very
the
nice.
lovely Mrs. Sweden, my wife is not a fan of beer and will dutifully try things as I pass them to her. This is very true. My wife, I took her on a six-week tour of the West Coast, and she liked one
Yep.
beer in that
My
whole trip.
fiance is very much the same. So shout out to Rob because we're all on the same.
Yeah, I
page.
related to this a lot. She has tried all manner of beers: lambics, IPAs, NEIPAs, stouts, barley wine, the whole gambit. It was one fateful night that I sat down with a Three Ravens beer and I went through my usual ritual of offering her a sip. However, on this occasion, she wasn't as polite and said, "That's nice, dear." This beer elicited, "Oh, I would drink that." To be honest, I was floored. My wife had finally found a beer that she enjoyed, and it was salted caramel thick shake IPA. So,
Thanks, Rob.
So Rob, one of the biggest supporters of our show ever. I've picked out a specific
Little
bottle
bottles on the way as well.
of
So
this. It'll be